Entering the mine, Redfern conjured just enough magical light to see by, not wanting to give away our position. The entrance hallway led north 20 feet to an east-west intersection. Not sure of the best way to go, we decided to turn right and try the eastern passage first. After passing through an unlocked door at the end of the passage, we entered an apparent storage room, dozens of boxes and barrels standing neatly stacked against the southern wall. Taking about 10 minutes to search the area and peer into several of the boxes and barrels, we found a variety of dry goods and other foodstuffs, enough food here to feed a small army for several months. This must be all the rations and supplies being provided by the jeweler back in EAA, Kartha suggested. The jeweler, Sashara I believe, has been helping the rebels here? Nira asked, surprised. I will need to take care of her too, it appears. Carefully examining the small chest, we found several raw emerald fragments, likely worth quite a lot. It's payment for the jeweler, Ariana speculated, not surprised by the find. Apparently the mine isn't as dead as everyone thought. That would explain how the rebels were able to hide here for so long, Nira responded, disappointed. The storage room thoroughly searched, we headed back down the hallway to the west toward the mine entrance. We soon reached the far southwestern corner of two adjoined tunnels, one leading south to north and the other leading west to east back toward the mine entrance. In the corner here where the two tunnels met was an old cistern well in the floor, a sturdy rope leading down into the abyss below. I suppose they have to drink, Sainayers commented, the first to examine the well and rope in the floor. Without any sort of mechanism to pull any potential water up, Sainayers grabbed the rope and simply started pulling, retrieving a wooden bucket filled with cold water moments later. The water looked clear and refreshing, so I gave it a taste. To my surprise, the water was clean, healthy, and refreshing, and I instructed my heroes to fill their water skins with as much as they wished. With nothing more to do here, we traveled north toward an alcove to the west, a closed door opposite the alcove to the east. Proceeding north about 30 feet, we reached the central area of a tunnel traveling north and south, another smaller perpendicular tunnel leading east and west here as well, a small alcove to the west and a closed door to the east. The western alcove was a natural cavern within the mine and was somewhat lit by a large growth of bioluminescent lichens growing on the ceiling. In the center of the alcove was some sort of tall, mushroom-looking fungus, standing 4 feet in height and purplish in color. That, I believe, is a shrieker, Ariana whispered, keeping my heroes from getting any closer to the alcove. If we get too close, it will make a terrible noise and alert anyone in the mines that we're here. It's best to move on. Glancing about, there didn't look to be all that much to explore here in the alcove anyway, so I took Ariana's advice and ordered the party to leave the glowing alcove. From this spot, we could continue north toward what appeared to be a large chasm up ahead or east down another short tunnel that led to a closed door. The way east seemed the better option and we marched toward the door. As we entered this chamber from the west, we quickly got a whiff of something cooking. It appeared we had entered a makeshift kitchen. Indeed, we spied 3 men busying themselves around a cooking fire at one end of the chamber, their backs to us and hence unaware of our presence. Looking about, the room appeared to have originally served as a forge for making weapons, armor, and shields, as a large hood for venting smoke extended all the way to the ceiling. Of course, it was the 3 middle-aged men cooking an apparent dinner that I was most concerned with here. Hoping that they would mind their manners if we just introduced ourselves and began a conversation, I hailed them from behind, losing the element of surprise but, hopefully, gaining a little of their trust. Their initial instinct was to attack, but quickly they recognized that they stood no chance against such powerful adversaries and so they stood down, demanding to know who we were and why we were here. Able to convince the men that we were not here to hurt them, they relaxed somewhat, willing to continue the conversation. She's the captain of the guard. One of the men then whispered to the other 2, suddenly fearful. I hear tell she will hang you just as soon as ask your name. I am not here to hang anyone, Nira responded, a bit surprised. We just want some answers. The 3 men looked to one another, quite nervous. Recognizing that we would probably get to ask just a single question, I cut to the chase and simply asked where all the rebels were hiding. The 3 men looked to one another again, at first unwilling to respond. Nira held her weapon to the center man's throat, however, coercing him to speak. Most of them are to the north. But you will never get past the barricade. That's all we will say. Another of the men sneered, nodding his head along with his other 2 pals. Oh, we can make you talk, you disgusting men. Nira returned, the guard captain ready to knock their skulls in if needed. That's enough. Kartha insisted, ordering Nira to back down. We're not thugs. Let's bind and gag them for now, then continue our search here. My party in agreement, we tied the men up and gagged them so they wouldn't be a threat. We then stepped over to the eastern door opposite of the one we had entered the chamber, about to see what was in the room beyond. Opening the door into this room just a little, we could hear varied conversations along with the unmistakable sounds of people eating. Peering beyond, it looked like there were half a dozen soldiers in here, one woman mixed in with all the men. Because the soldiers were all eating, we had gained the element of surprise. Looking them over, most appeared to be fighter types, but I suspected there was at least one cleric and one magic user here as well, so we needed to be careful. Hoping that the people here were more concerned with money than ideals, I announced myself instead of launching a surprise attack, offering a 250 gold piece bribe to ask a few questions. Quite suspicious, the soldiers first looked to one another, ready to attack. One of them, a halfling fighter, then agreed, taking my bribe and ordering his soldiers to stand down. Sure, we will answer a few questions, the halfling began. What do you want to know? While we were there to find and capture the rebels, of course, I didn't forget the real reason we were in Genland in the first place, and I asked an appropriate question. Do you know a wizard named Lodice? Tall, lanky, old, quite irritable? The cleric here responded, annoyed. Thinks he knows everything? Yeah, we know Lodice. So he has been here. Ariana said with some surprise. He was the one who organized us against the queen, the halfling fighter responded. Of course we know him. But we haven't seen him in over a season now, he's abandoned us. You are plotting against our queen. Nira shouted, escalating the situation. You men taint everything you touch, and what you can't have, you try to take by force. Queen Delpana was right to banish all of you decades ago. Delpana is a sexist fool. The magic user sitting here shouted, her anger growing as well. Women need more than just her precious white roses, men and women can get along. That's treason. The guard captain shouted, readying her weapon. Enough from you. All hell then broke loose, the soldiers attacking with everything they had. As the battle began, the halfling fighter jumped upon a nearby table and pointed toward Nira. Let's go, Captain. The halfling taunted. I've been wanting to kick your ass for some time. Facing us were 4 adept fighters, an adept cleric, an adept thief and an adept magic user. Like the EAA guard we sparred against within the city arena the day before, we knew we had to take out the cleric and magic user first and then concentrate on the fighters and thief. While the various mercenaries were skilled and experienced, they weren't quite the match for us and we defeated them rather quickly. The last of the adept soldiers went down and we promptly tied them up so they couldn't be any more of a threat to us. You may have won the battle, Captain, the halfling fighter spat along with some blood, but you won't win the war. Delpana will be overthrown. Not by the likes of you. Nira sneered, punching the halfling in the face so hard that he was knocked out. Let's go. At least we know that Lodice was once here, Redfern commented. Perhaps there are other rebels here in the mine that know more. With nowhere else to go, we backtracked our way to the chamber with the Shrieker in it and then headed north, quickly reaching the far end of the tunnel. Here we could see that it opened into a massive chasm beyond, its ceiling bathed in light and what appeared to be an underground river far below. The good news was that a wooden bridge spanned the chasm to the other side about 60 feet away. The bad news was that there appeared to be a timber barricade across the middle of the bridge, 4 feet high and well constructed. Further, we saw at least 2 armed guards patrolling atop the barricade. Getting past it would be quite the challenge. Taking a few minutes to scout the immediate area and assess the situation, our options appeared limited. We could scale down the chasm to the other side, Ariana suggested, looking down to the river below. I could pretend to have captured everyone, Kartha offered. That should create enough confusion to get close enough to attack. Or, we just do a full frontal assault and get it over with, Eswin returned, ready to lead the party directly into battle. All 3 suggestions seemed warranted, but I needed to select just one. I nodded to Kartha that I liked her suggestion the best and she nodded in return, implementing the plan immediately. All of you march forward in front of me with your hands behind your back, Kartha ordered, herself stepping to the rear. I will pretend to be one of the rebels. I've just captured all of you and we will walk straight toward the barricade. When someone comes out to talk, we will surprise them. I am not comfortable with this, Nira mumbled, unsure of whether to go along with the ruse. But it's a good plan. Kartha nodded and drew her weapon, the rest of us hiding our own weapons before placing our hands behind our backs as if tied. We then bravely walked forward, our heads down as if we were indeed prisoners. Kartha, in turn, seemingly pushed the party from behind, appearing in complete control. The march to the barricade only took a minute or so. As we approached, several men armed with bows standing atop the barricade watched our every move, unsure of what was going on. Then, a small door leading into the barricade opened and another human fighter stepped out, armed with a longsword and quite suspicious. Despite the suspicions of the male soldiers here, they hadn't yet attacked, the ruse seemed to be working. "What do we have here, then?" the closest fighter asked Kartha, but looking at all of us. "We captured an entire party," Kartha boasted. "We even got the guard captain." A few more men from the barricade joined the soldier, suspicious but impressed as well. "I don't recognize you," one of the guards then said to Kartha, an apparent cleric herself. "Prove to us Lodi's hired you." Her diplomacy skills failing her, Kartha faltered, exposing our party as the enemies we were. "We're under attack," the lead soldier cried out, readying his longsword as all the other guards here prepared their weapons as well. This time, we had to face and defeat 6 adept fighters and 1 adept cleric. Like the mercenaries we had faced earlier in the dining room, they were not as strong or experienced as our party, and we promptly defeated them, tying and gagging them so they would no longer be a threat. As we secured the defeated mercenaries, however, a final unseen guard sprinted away from the barricade, attempting to flee and perhaps even warn others of our presence. I pointed and Ariana immediately knocked her bow and fired, the elven archer striking the fleeing guard in the right leg and bringing him down. She and Eswin secured the guard and brought him back to the others, Kartha curing his wounds before he, too, was bound and gagged. The bridge battle won. We could now finish crossing the bridge and head north, a hallway leading east about 30 feet and a single door to the left at the far end of the tunnel we were in. Continuing to follow the tunnel to the left and picking the lock on the single door, we found a hollowed-out cave beyond containing a wide diversity of weapons, armor, shields and ammunition, an apparent armory. The equipment here didn't look all that shoddy, whoever acquired it had a fair amount of coin to spend. Of course, we wouldn't know more unless we searched the smaller chamber. As we began our search, I quickly spotted a rigged-up falling stone trap near the center of the cave, intended to drop a medium-sized boulder on one's head if the trap was stepped on. It didn't take much to disarm the trap, but clearly someone was protecting something here. Inspecting all the equipment, we found racks of long and short swords, longbows, spears and daggers. There was also an assorted variety of leather and chain armor, along with some wooden and metallic shields. "These rebels seem well equipped," Nira began, frustrated. "I need to find out who bankrolled them." We then found some small barrels in one corner filled with ammunition, stones, arrows, and crossbow bolts. Searching it carefully, we soon discovered some ammunition at the bottom of the barrel glowing with a soft blue light. It was magical, and we quickly scooped it all up and distributed it amongst ourselves. Having recovered some magical ammunition from the rebel armory, we departed the small cave and took the hallway leading east, soon arriving at a closed door. I cracked the door open and easily heard a man's voice, apparently addressing several other yet unseen people. As we currently had the element of surprise, I decided to listen for a little while and hear what I could discover. Our spies back in EAA are warning us that Delphana has stepped up her efforts to find us. Apparently, she may have even hired some outsiders to track us down. This is quite worrisome. Maybe it's time to abandon the cause and move on. "That's not what Lodi's would want," another voice responded, a bit more spirited. "We have our orders, we should wait it out." "Lodi's isn't here," the original voice countered, disappointed. "He's been gone all this time now, he's probably dead." "Even if he is," another female voice was heard, "his campaign to bring down the sexist government here in Genland is still important. We must carry on his work." "Over my dead body," Nira huffed, breaking ranks and storming into the chamber. Chasing Nira around a corner, we found what appeared to be a large meeting room, a single long table dominating the southern area of the room with a variety of simple wooden chairs surrounding it. A crude map of Genland was affixed to the southern wall here as well. Sitting at the table were half a dozen or so officials, each dressed as if they had plenty of coin to spare, and likely the voices we were just listening to. Standing behind the officials were another half-dozen armed soldiers, along with a cleric, a magic user and a thief. "It's the captain of the guard," one of the officials cried out, standing to her feet. Quick! Well, cover your escape! The female magic user shouted, beginning a spell. Before we could reach the table, the fancy-clothed officials all leapt away toward a tunnel leading out of the chamber to the northeast and were gone moments later. The guards here readied their weapons as we approached, while the cleric and magic user held their ground, the thief stepping over to a nearby cabinet to apparently retrieve something. Telling my heroes to chase the fleeing officials, the guards here easily cut us off, preventing any chance to follow them. Cover the crown! The cleric cried, ordering the guards to attack while protecting the officials who just escaped to the northeast. The thief returned alongside the cleric and magic user, carrying several small glassy orbs containing a strange, green, glowing liquid, which he then began to lob in our direction. The first green vial burst into glowing fire alongside Huelsman, slightly burning him in its sticky, fiery goo. Recognizing the significant danger of the orb assault, Ariana retrieved her bow and shot the elf, taking him out quickly. The remaining 6 adept fighters, adept cleric and adept magic user then tore into us, this group of bodyguards more disciplined and experienced than the others we had fought here within the mine. Still, my heroes managed to defeat all the soldiers here without too much trouble and we quickly tied them up, so they were no longer any sort of threat. Now, care to explain yourselves? Nira began, ready to use further violence here to get the guards to talk if she must. We got nothing to say to you. The thief responded, a low-level male halfling. Moments passed and I recognized that the bodyguards here didn't intend to say anything. So, I attempted to use some empathy and honestly explain that we weren't here to hurt anyone. Tell us who you were guarding, we're not here to hurt you, Kartha similarly added, even more calm in her voice. While the captured fighters refused to answer, the thief nervously looked to the cleric and magic user before providing a timid response. They call themselves the Emerald Crown, the thief began. They were recruited by an old wizard we haven't seen now in over a season. They've escaped back to the barracks to mount their defense, I am sure. Was this old wizard Lodice? Kartha asked. You know him? The magic user asked, intrigued. He could be rude, even obnoxious, but he had a big heart and we believed in him. You believed that treason was somehow a good thing? Nira objected. You want to betray our sisters? On the contrary, the magic user softly responded. We want to liberate our sisters and show them that female-led sexism is just as bad as when men do it. About to say something, Nira noticed that all the soldiers here agreed and so she just turned away. What should we do with them? Redfern asked. They're just mercenaries, they're not the ones behind this rebellion. Maybe we should let them go? Nira turned to me, her angry sneer fully communicating her position on the subject. Yet Kartha stepped over to the cleric and began to untie her. Seeing that, Ariana, Redfern and even Sainairs followed suit, untying all the soldiers and setting them free. The rebellion is over, but let us finish what you've started, Kartha told the cleric. Quite surprised, the soldiers turned and walked away, departing the chamber through the door to the west and allowing us to proceed eastward. Continuing east, we soon entered another large chamber cut into the stone, this one smaller than the one we had just left. In addition to a bunch of barrels, boxes and crates stored here, we found a diversity of other ordinary objects. This place appeared to be a simple storage room. As usual, we would have to give the room a good search to know more. Spending perhaps 20 minutes opening things and looking around, we didn't find anything of value or importance. However, we did find a small rug near the southern wall of the chamber, under which was a trapdoor leading down into the darkness. I am guessing they went down there, Sainairs summarized, pointing down into the darkness as well. We should follow. I smell chemicals. Redfern suggested, sniffing the air. I think they're coming from beyond that door. Redfern nodded toward a single door in the eastern wall, the only other exit we hadn't yet explored. Since the ladder leading down wasn't going anywhere, I instructed the party to move eastward so we could explore the chamber beyond the door first. Entering the chamber beyond, the overpowering smell of chemicals permeated the air here, obvious to all of us. In the far northeastern corner, I could see a small laboratory that had been set up. There didn't seem to be anything being made right now, but the smell told us that it had been used recently. Other than several well-packed crates tucked away in the southeastern corner, I didn't see anything else here. Giving the chamber a thorough search, we didn't find anything of interest or value with the glassware either. The crates, however, appeared carefully packed with a variety of glass orbs filled with a green, glowing liquid, identical to the ones used against us back in the meeting room. Counting the orbs, there appeared to be 12 here altogether. What is this stuff? Huelsman demanded to know, slightly burned by it a short time ago. Intrigued, Nira reached into the topmost crate and retrieved one of the orbs, swishing the oily substance around. Actually, I recognized the stuff. Known as alchemist fire, it acted like a grenade. Where thrown, the green liquid within would burst into a sticky fire that badly burned anyone it contacted. The liquid was dangerous to transport, but quite effective in battle. Come to think of it, Nira said, deep in thought. This is the stuff used against the power tower a season ago. Yes, I am sure of it. So, the rebels here were behind the attack on the tower? Huelsman asked. That would explain a lot. I am not so sure, Kartha objected, examining one of the orbs herself. The people here are motivated for change, but they don't seem like terrorists or murderers to me. I agreed with Kartha. The rebels here definitely wanted to overthrow Queen Delpana and bring change to Genland, but they didn't want anyone to get killed in the process. Perhaps the alchemist fire was a product to be made and sold to financially support the resistance, not to be used directly as a weapon against unsuspecting townswomen. The laboratory fully explored, each of us very carefully stowed 2 of the green orbs in our packs, recognizing that the firebombs would come in handy at some point. And that's a wrap of episode number 30, The Rebel Mine. Expect additional episodes every few weeks as the story continues.